Good morning, Sonor family. Jules here. The Christmas season is upon us. Even if you don't celebrate per se, it's hard not to get caught up in the commercialism. Um, if nothing else, the food and the excitement of celebration in the air. And I hope you're feeling good vibes from that, as I certainly am and always do. Um, don't really have a set format for today. I got a few things I could talk about, but I think I'm going to put those on hold. Yesterday, I was recording a 2025 shout out, and for some reason, just decided not to do that as a separate um, video. So I'm going to let that be the content for today. Um, a few years ago, I created this channel and moved some video interviews from my other channel, which has now become kind of my personal channel, basically dead anyway. But and didn't get a lot of followers. I had 25 subscribers when the Todd Zuckerman interview came out this year on January the 7th, the day after Sonor announced that Todd had come back to Sonor after all those years. So, um, leading up to that, um, I saw Todd in Atlanta back last November, and um, I'll come back to that event here shortly. But found out that Todd had re-signed with Sonar, and that it was less than 2 months before there was going to be an announcement, and Todd would be touring with the new Sonar kit and all that. And it was actually a surreal thing for me. But luckily, I was in a situation that getting that advance notice put me in a great opportunity to um, share share the message. So on the 6th, when it was announced that that Todd had returned to Sonar, sorry, had one sip out of this first cup of coffee. So this is a fully legit coffee with Jules. I'm freshly awake and fresh cup of coffee. And this ain't grandstanding. This is me needing this coffee. So anyway, um, back in 2008, I interviewed Todd for the first time. He was the first interview I ever did, and we talked a lot about Sonar at the time, and he had been gone from Sonar for you know 10 or 11 years by then, I guess. Then in 2010, we did another one and talked about Brian Wilson and his work with Brian Wilson and just other things. And um, Todd's always been such an approachable, nice guy, and after getting a chance to kind of hang with him a little bit last November, um, you know, he's fully what you think he is. He doesn't seem to put on a facade around people or around a camera, and then you know he's just really busy jerk that just doesn't really have time for folks, and he's above everybody else and all that. That's just not him at all. And so part of my 2025 shout out, just to get kicked off here, is definitely Todd Zuckerman. I appreciate the fact that he gave me some street cred back in 2008. I tell you, I need more coffee. Um, and then to kick this thing off, to do it on such a massive level as I was able to do. Um, and then after that interview with Todd, some doors opened for me to interview his drum tech, Mark Petrocelli. Um, Equally nice guy. The whole Sticks camp, from my perspective, just seems to be this family of great guys. And I don't think they would put up with anything else. I think they're at a place in their career, the money is all there, I guess. And they're just out there doing what they want to do because that's what they want to do. And why would you have people out there working with you that are going to create headaches or stress you out or just be jerks? And, I get nothing but great vibes from all these Sticks guys. And then the Mark Petrocelli interview led to the Jeff Heinz interview. And that was an amazing interview. There was so much depth and background to what led up to Jeff subbing for Todd one fateful night when Todd had to go to the hospital. And thinking back, the Mark Petrocelli interview was so well received as well that I probably need to delve into doing more interviews with drum techs because getting the perspective of the artist is important. Todd out there playing the gear, he hears in his monitor, hears these drums and referred to some of the sounds as beautiful reds and blues and all this sort of thing. But the guy actually out there maintaining the drums, setting the drums up, keeping them tuned up night after night. I think that's a perspective that people would probably like to hear, and I think the proof to that is the fact that the Mark Petrocelli interview did so well too. I think a huge portion of the success with that interview and the Jeff Heinz interview is also the element that it was related to Styx. And Todd, for so many years now, has been in the limelight in the drum world. But aside from that, I still think that the aspect of the drum tech's perspective would be of interest to some people. So, big shout out to Todd for what turned out to be several really great interviews this year. Plus, just an attitude, a positive attitude, and you know, a level of inspiration as well for what I was doing. So, big shout out to Todd. Next up is Scott Logsdon. Scott, is a longtime Sonar historian. He's had a very successful message board and channel, I say channel, website for decades. And I owe him for my exposure to all these Sonar people 20 some odd years ago that ultimately led to me having a Sonar dealership. That was kind of short lived, but I didn't have a business model. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. But when I had the interview lined up with Todd, I was kind of nervous because I'd never used Zoom before. And the last thing I wanted to do was get Todd on a 2 hour podcast and then afterwards find out, oh, we didn't have audio, or, I'd made some major boo boo. And so Scott was graceful. He was helpful. He signed on to do a couple of interviews, so we actually talked about his, some of his involvement with Sonar over the years, which has been pretty substantial, and talked about Sonar and other things as well. So Scott not only helped bring some unique content to the channel, but he also helped kind of take the load off or the pressure off me because we had a few dry runs with the software and getting things done and all that before I got into it with Todd. So big shout out to Scott Logston. Next up, Gabs Dornier, Gabor Dornier. He returned to Sonar about a year ago, and super nice guy. I mean, I can't say super, aggressively enough. But got to do an interview with the guy, and he gets you really pumped up. He's a lot of fun. But Gabs was going to be playing at the UK drum show, and I asked him if he would um, kind of do some reporting for us, kind of get some video and maybe pictures and all that. And I had an idea in mind of what I wanted from Gabs. And, what I wanted from Gabs, was right here. What Gabs provided was way out here. I mean, it was fantastic. And he branded Drum and Stage, which I thought was awesome. It took any kind of a generic element out of it that could have been there. Um, but he's just a lot of fun. His personality shines through in anything he does, and these videos were certainly the case. Gave us some really good content, and I feel like it really boosted the quality of some of the content that I have here from this year. Another thanks goes out to Jeff Mulvihill with KHS America. Uh, Jeff got me plugged into to some artists this year. Um, Earlier in the year, even after the Zuckerman interview, he recommended some people that he thought that I should interview that would kind of help shape things and kind of build momentum and all that. And you know what? All these guys, I think I've done all but one. I've got one in post production that I need to get out, and I've just been remiss in getting done. And I've got one more guy that was on the list that Jeff gave me that I haven't gotten in touch with yet. I think I've reached out and not received. I have reached out and not received a response. But Jeff was also implemental in the Steve Smith interview happening too, and I big shout out to Jeff for that. That was, you know, Steve's one of those guys. I would assume he gets more inbound mail traffic than he cares to go through. I mean, I'm just a normal guy, and I get so much garbage in my inbox. If somebody, if I had a big fan base, which of course I don't. I'm not a noted drummer. Um, but I can't imagine having a slew of inbound mail traffic. And so I wasn't surprised that I wasn't able to make contact personally. But Jeff bridged that gap, and the Steve Smith interview was absolutely amazing. Steve was another one of those really nice guys, and Steve contacted me a time or two um, after the after we did the interview and after the interview came out and all that. Just a super gracious guy, and I have to thank Jeff Mulvihill for helping get that going. Next up is Frank Godiva. When I decided to launch the forum, um, I think Frank really appreciated the fact that there was a Sonor specific forum again, and he got in there and really did a lot of work. I mean, it was almost he was working like he was on payroll or something. I mean, he was in there really getting the content built up, and he helped that forum build up a lot of momentum pretty quickly. And mad thanks to Frank for his contributions there. Honorable mentions, got a bunch of them. Everybody that's done any content with me this year. Um, can't thank everybody enough. Other people, I'm not going to get specific because there's so many. I don't want to. I'd be all day. And um, if I thought of everybody but one, I would feel bad when I realized who I left out. So I'm not even going to go down that road. But everybody that subscribed this year and watched a few, one or more videos, I appreciate it. If you liked something, even if you didn't like something, I actually watch these numbers. If I do an interview or not an interview, if I do content and I see that I've only got 80% positive likes, um, I don't go roll up in the bed and cry, but it does make me think about the kind of content I'm putting out. And mind you, I don't think 80% likes is bad, but the interviews typically run in the high 90s, and just my normal silliness like this, like what I'm doing now, typically runs about 100. Um, so I am mindful of what's going on. So if I do a piece of something that gets low marks, I'm aware of that. So uh, even if you've disliked something, I appreciate the input. I appreciate you taking the time to put your opinion out there. Um, People who comment, obviously, if you've got positive comments on my content, I appreciate it very much. I appreciate the time that you took to do that. Means a lot to me. What I'm also thankful of is negative comments. And I'm thinking back to when the Todd Zuckerman interview came out. Todd was watching it like a hawk. And there were a couple of people that were accusatory, claiming that Todd was getting paid or whatever. And some people obviously were commenting without ever watching any of the video or without watching all of it because they were sitting there saying things that he had clearly addressed in the video in the interview. And so it's just kind of funny. There was one guy in particular, and it turned into kind of a shooting match. Well, this guy, unfortunately, you know, backing up, Todd saw that. Todd responded. So there was several responses from several people. And so while you would think that you don't want anything negative going on your content, it actually sometimes can spark debate or fun or jousting or whatever, which happened here. And ultimately, for whatever reason, this guy decided to go back and delete his initial remark, which killed the entire string of stuff. So, um, when it comes to content or criticism, I guess I should say, um, that can be as important as anything else. So, I want to thank anybody that's even had something to say that wasn't necessarily nice and supportive. It does help make me think about what I'm doing and help push me forward. And I thank you. Anybody on the forum, I thank all of you guys that are in there reading and contributing. I think we've got some great years ahead on there. I think in time that's really going to build up. If you haven't checked that out, it's drumandstage.com/forum, FORUM. And go ahead and sign up for that. It's going to become a play. And I know that people think that forums are outdated and that things like Facebook pages and all that are where it's at. But if you go look at the forum, there's a structure to that. And you can go in there and search topics. And if you go in there and if you go in there and post pictures or videos or both of your gear, you're going to get your own page on there. So there's a lot of benefits that Facebook just doesn't have. And one day Facebook will be passe. It's kind of hard to imagine that right now. But you look at MySpace. MySpace was. I need more coffee. MySpace was where it was at, a number of years ago. And who would have thought that that quickly it would be irrelevant. Um, so things like that have a life cycle. And I'm looking forward to the next big thing besides Facebook. But this is a standalone forum, and it's not going to fall prey to changes and trends or whatever. I really think it's going to stay strong. There are other forums out there that are drum related that are very strong and very active after all these years. And I think once this builds wind in its sails, I think it's going to be even greater than it's already been as a startup. So I think I've got everything out of the way there. Um, the big the big shout out for 2025, the one guy who really did a lot to help shape what I'm doing for the year is Mike Eckert from the Atlanta Drum Shop. Um, I met, I talked to Mike when Mike was getting things built up before he started opening. I had some Gretsch gear that I was wanting to send up there to him to sell, and um, he was just bummed. He was inundated with gear already, and wound up not sending him anything. And then I wanted to get up there and meet the guy, and didn't happen before I wound up going to uh, New Hampshire. I went to New Hampshire for 6 weeks. Another story for another day. And one day I'm going to tell that whole story. But once I got back to Georgia, ultimately wound up meeting Mike. Mike's a great guy, and um, when I when he was going to have the Todd Zuckerman master classes, two master classes, um, offered to go up there and volunteer to help him out, and he said he didn't need any help. And then he changed his mind and said he would like some help. So I got to go up there and be a part of this. And when we picked up Todd from the airport or the hotel, I forget which one that day. Um, Todd recognized me, even though it had been a while. He recognized me and ultimately told me that he'd signed with Sonor, which I thought was a joke. Honestly, I thought Todd was pulling my leg because apparently knew, remembered what a big Sonar nut I am. Um, and so over the course of the next couple of evenings, kind of put the game plan in place to do the interview that I've already spoken about. And it, for a 25 subscriber channel, that interview came out at 4 o'clock in the morning Eastern time in the US. And 20 hours later at midnight, it had 15,000 views. Um, that would have never happened like that if not for Mike Eckert and letting me be a part of the things going on with Todd in Atlanta during those master classes. So, what would have happened if not for Mike is that I would have found out when you did that Todd was back with Sonar, and it was the announcement was on the 6th. The tour started on the 8th, the new tour, and I would have gotten in touch with Todd. He probably would have agreed to the interview or podcast or whatever you want to call it these days. And it probably would have been months before he got settled down enough in his studio to take the time to do it. Um, and by that time, the heat would have been off. The information would have kind of trickled out. The modern drummer rig rundown would have happened first. And I did have a lot of a lot of details in my interview that weren't in the modern drummer interview. But still, um, that really set the tone for a great year. And that, one more time, I'm just going to say thank you again, Mike Eckert at Atlanta Drum Shop. And uh, as the result of Todd being at the, being there with due to the master classes, Mike actually wound up becoming a Sonar dealer, and he sold one of the signature series 150th anniversary drum sets. And for a rookie Sonar dealer to uh, move an item like that in the current economy and the economy we've been dealing with for a couple of years now, um, that's pretty awesome. And there's a reason for it. Mike's a good guy. If you go look, check out the reviews and all that, people are really digging what Mike's doing. If you don't have a local drum shop, or if you don't have a local drum shop that seems to want your business, you really ought to check him out. This is not a paid plug. This is not a sponsorship. This is just me telling you that I owe Mike a debt of gratitude. A debt of gratitude. I'm sorry. Um, and if you need a good Sonar dealer to deal with, call Mike, and I think you're going to get a good vibe from him. So, I think that's going to wrap us up today. I think this probably droned on a little bit longer than I assumed it would. I hope you've hung in there with me, and I thank you for everything. I'll try to have you some good content come Monday for Coffee with Jules, and got some other stuff going to come out this month. Hopefully, got other things kind of going on. Kind of got my attention split right now, but settling into 2026, you're going to see a fresh load of new content coming up. I'm getting monetized now, so there's about to be a little bit of a budget to buy things to do reviews on and experiment and have a little fun with. I think 2026 is going to be great, guys. I really do. Um, I'm really excited about what Sonar's doing. I'll go into a video one day going into detail about that because when you make little changes along the way and you see things change a little bit here and there, from this point to this point to this point, there's not a big difference. But you know what? When you take a step back and you think, hey, wait a minute, we went from here and now we're already, all the way over here. Um, that's what we're going to do. We're going to take a picture, a big picture look at modern Sonar and how it contrasts days gone by. And I love it. I like it. I really like the direction the company's going. I think they've got some really cool stuff, and I think that some of it's been on the market long enough. We're kind of taking it for granted, but we're going to do a deep dive into that, have a really good look, and hopefully get really psyched about what they've got going out. And I think we got new product left to be seen. Maybe not any more anniversary stuff. I don't know, but I think 2026 is going to be a really cool year. I really do. Thank you for being there, guys. I will talk to you soon.